Hey folks, welcome to Bouncing Brains. I'm Sean Hatfield.
And I'm Freddy G. And welcome to our first multi angle podcast episode. I almost fucked that up. Welcome.
If you're
Once
listening to
again.
the audio version of this, you are missing a whole nother dimension of the experience.
Word. So we encourage you, if you have a computer, access to the internet, log on to youtube.com and search Bouncing Brains, and you will be able to see this episode. Not right now, not live, but as soon as this episode comes up, make sure you subscribe, hit the notification button, and you will get notifications when the latest episodes come out. That is the first promotional fucking bit that I do, I think, since we've been running this.
Nice. You had a vibe to it. It kind of sounded like those little bits they do on the Saturday morning cartoons where it's like, hey kids, if you got access to a computer and your parents' permission,
Yep,
you
pretty
can
much.
join us online.
Pretty much.
And a little welcome to the listeners that are hearing this through RGV Titan Radio. This will probably be our first episode out on that format. And
Yeah, so big shout out to Titan Radio. We finally got it finalized. They were able to bring us on board. So this more than likely will be the first audio episode. So again, if you have access to the internet, go to rgbtitanradio.com and you can now find the awesome Bouncing Brains podcast through rgbtitanradio.com. And shout out to Vinny D and Fred for putting us on.
much love, guys. And we hope that you guys in the audience enjoy this. To our longtime listeners, this will be a bit of a departure. We're not going to have a guest in today on the mic. This is just going to be us kind of rambling over various subjects, shit that's been pissing us off, the greater culture at large of entertainment and, life politics, the bullshit we usually talk about. Just we're not going to submit another innocent human being to our bullshit while we're doing it.
Exactly, and that's the other thing that I was going to point out. This is also the first Bouncing Brains solo podcast with just your beautiful co-hosts. I do want to go ahead and throw it out there, man, because I didn't want to be greedy or anything. I do want to give shouts out. We actually have somebody doing the production behind the cameras and behind the audio. We will maybe disclose his name and his information at a later date, at a later time. We can't do it at this moment for green card purposes. Nah, I'm fucking with y'all. We didn't hire an illegal, I promise. Now to more important shit. Well, first of all, man, since it's been a while, how you been? Everything good?
Shit, man, I'm still breathing.
Good. That's always a good thing. As long as you don't forget to breathe, I think that it's always a good day when you're able to pull that off. So I wanted to ask you, man, do you honestly believe that racist people should be allowed to exist?
Allowed?
Yeah.
Yes. Mainly because it is kind of a misunderstanding of that. I mean, we've had that conversation about that innate in-group, out-group thing. Like basically we're programmed to like identify the traits of our tribe and then defend that. You know what I mean? And it's a built-in thing. So it's like whatever. That's why like it's kind of like they say if you're gonna like really like socialize your kids, you got to take them into like experiences that like they're not gonna be experiencing throughout their. I'm sorry, man. I may have indulged in something before we started recording this. What I'm trying to say is, man, you got to take your kids out and like introduce them to like a whole bunch of different people and like things that are not going to be in their daily life, so that when they come across them later on, you know what I mean? It's like that's already a thing in their head. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying. I see exactly what
Like
you're
it's
saying.
kind of like that conversation we had with Ray Flowers a while back, where he was talking about. Oh no, you were talking about the story. You were out with some friend, and the kid like saw like a black dude and was like
Oh yeah.
kind of yeah
He
yeah
was like now keep in mind people this little person, and by little person I don't mean midget. I mean literally a little person as in age and shit. He's 3 years old, and it was the first time ever in his 3 years of life that he had ever seen an African American gentleman. And his first reaction, and this was in public.
you know, we could just tell him to go back and listen to that episode.
Oh, I was just gonna say he thought that the person was dirty. So
Yeah. Oh, now obviously that is very benign and innocent on the kid's part. Like the kid was literally like, you know, concerned for that person, was like, that person is dirty. But you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Where that can go, where that obviously kind of turns wrong is like if you've never experienced either a certain, you know, race, ethnicity, culture, you know, social experience, then if somebody comes along and goes, hey, you know, those people are the problem, then it's a little bit easier for someone to go, yeah, maybe that is the case. Like, you know what I mean? So that's where you're just kind of like easy slip into racism in a an insular culture happens. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's like back in the day, if communities aren't intermingling, then it's kind of easy to go, hey, them motherfuckers down the road, they're the ones that are causing us some shit, and you know, yada yada. Anyway, what I'm saying is like there's that racism, and then there's the racism of like the mythos. You know what I mean? Which is like where it's like people are actually passing the ideas down to their kids. It's not picked up culturally
yeah,
along the way. It's something that is actually being taught to them. Now that's where you have to kind of push back against it. That's where, you know, the idea of like you have to engage that in a conversation, and if somebody tries to bring that into a public forum, then you have to discourse
yeah.
with them. You know what I mean?
So
Obviously, don't go punch the Nazi. I mean, unless the Nazi's punching people, in which case, punch away. Punch,
so
aim for the head.
so basically, what you're
Come on,
saying is
you're not going to acknowledge that Avengers line. Come on, fuck you.
yeah.
We're going to talk about that later. But go ahead, man. Go ahead.
So basically, what you're saying is racism is like AIDS. Once you got it, and eventually it's not gonna go away, and eventually
Well, no,
you'll
no.
die from
Actually,
it.
that's a great example. No, 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 because we have treatment for AIDS now, but there are still going to be people who are going to die from AIDS. But most people, I think that's an optimistic sign. Most people who contract, you know, HIV and the various, what do you call it, infections that go along with that, and eventually get AIDS and then die, are not going to go through that process because we have treatments for that. Like we have rhetorical treatments for like racism. Somebody who's actually thinking about it and is not like either too dumb to reason through the holes in their own logic, or somebody who is not, you know, somebody, you know, you get those people who are really intelligent but have managed to like paint themselves into this pattern of like no, I'm not wrong, and it's like, well, no, you're fucking wrong, but you've built a box so tight that you can't even work your way out of it, though clearly logically there are holes, right?
Yeah,
What I'm saying is most people, if they have a dumb idea, you can walk them through why that's a dumb idea.
yeah, but it doesn't necessarily mean that even though you walk them through, and even when, because I've experienced this, even when you show them clear evidence that that is not right, they're still not gonna agree with you, and then they still turn around and look at you like you're crazy. Perfect example, the flat earthers. Yeah, that's look. If you believe the Earth is flat, that is your right as an American citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well, as a human being, because there, as a human being left alone in the wilderness, there is no way in the world that you can. All right, you if you understand math, yes, but like a human not given the tools of ration and like measurement, is incapable of understanding that the world. I mean, you can explain it to them because it's kind of look. Yes, it takes a special kind to like fight against the logic of it. But if you weren't introduced to the ideas of a round Earth, I can get where you might go, oh, flat.
I believe that, but a lot of the people that I've read and seen that believe in this theory,
Yeah.
like they're not fucking cavemen. You know what I'm saying? Like they're
Fair
people
enough, man.
that know what the fuck the internet is. They know we. This is my thing. We live in an age of information. Like information is literally at your fingertips. This is why I don't understand. And I mean, not just with that. I mean, I'm not gonna shit on the flat earthers for like 30 minutes or whatever. But I like that. That was my whole point behind that, and it's kind of a segue to another question I was gonna ask you right now. But that's the whole thing. Like we live in an era of like information where you can go look and research, and if you really want to find the answer to something, if you do enough research, you can find it. But then again, like I said before, I mean, if you first of all, I respect whatever it is that you believe. If you believe that the Earth is flat, I I'm not there with you, but I mean I respect that. It doesn't necessarily mean I have to agree with you,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean I respect your belief, which I was gonna kind of segue into this. Um, Something that I've been pondering from things that I've been reading and stuff like that, things that have been going on. Um, there is a group of people like the flat earthers, but this at least makes a bit more sense to me. I don't agree with it, but it makes a bit more sense. Um, people that think that you are born gay, either a homosexual or lesbian. Now, before we go into this part, I do want to make a real quick disclaimer. If you're gay, transgender, lesbian, whatever it is that you identify as, and that makes you happy, and that's who you feel that you are, I respect you as a human being, and I'm happy for you. And if you're happy, at the end of the day, that's all that matters. But I go back to the same thing. Just because I respect who you are and what you feel, it doesn't mean I necessarily agree with. So I was gonna ask you, you kind of sort of have extensive knowledge on this. Do you honestly feel that somebody is born gay?
I think there is a percentage of the population shown by evidence in various species, including our own, that there are people who are that work back to the first part of that sentence. Yes, there are a portion of the population that I believe is born predisposed to being homosexual.
No, that's different.
No, no. What I mean is like what they are sexually attracted to is homosexual. Like that's what
No, no, no.
they're
But you said you used a very important word in that sentence.
some of that predisposed bit. Okay,
Predisposed.
but here's the thing, man. Like, why are you like you're heterosexual because you are predisposed being heterosexual? All of your
No,
buttons are turned on
pre
by
pre.
looking at a woman.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like predisposed means
That might be a little bit of the wrong use of that word. If
oh,
that's where if you're pointing out that like it doesn't mean for sure, then
yeah.
yes. But like, here's the thing: we also have plenty of evidence, within the last 100 years, especially like say within the entertainment industry, of people who are uh, gay and choose to live a heterosexual lifestyle. So that's where I'm going with that. And then we also have a large segment of the population who is just like, fuck it, I can go either way. And they do. Some of them don't. And I'm saying like, we are a varied species when it comes to that. But if you're asking specifically, are there people who are born wired to be homosexual? Yes, I firmly
Okay.
believe that.
And see, I don't believe that. Again, I've been reading a couple articles, and I've been reading articles on both sides. I've been reading articles on the on the conservative side,
Mhm.
and I've been reading articles on like on the liberal side, and of course liberals.
Have you tried the scientific side?
Yes, and that's where I was going, and the science behind it. And again, you can correct me if I'm wrong if you know something that I don't, but I want to hit the science part first.
Mhm.
Again, I may be wrong if I missed something or if I didn't research it extensively enough, but from what I was able to figure out, there is actually no scientific proof that there is a gay gene, if I could put it that way.
No, I wouldn't. From my understanding, and loosely, I have not studied this beyond just like reading the findings. Like you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
me too.
Like I don't
But by the
necessarily know
by
how
the
to
way, people,
interpret
I
them.
do want to point this out. You don't want to take to heart this information. We're just two
Yeah, if
stupid
anything,
people.
we're arguing like what it is that not arguing, but like where we're coming from is like, okay, you've read the popular science, I've read some popular science, we've run into various conversations around it. So like, what was your angle and what's my angle? You know what I
Pretty
mean?
much.
It's what we're basically working on is like the what's that word they use the zeitgeist information. You know what I mean? The stuff that's like that might not be the right word either, but the whatever floats to the top of the conversation is
Yeah.
what we're you know what I mean? So if we're found ignorant, hey, that's the fault of popular science, man. They weren't getting their fucking message out there properly. You know what I mean? Neil deGrasse Tyson needs to up his game. I've watched his podcast a couple times, but
Yeah, I did too, and make my head hurt. I'm not smart enough to keep up with that guy. But yeah, as far like again, I always use the rule of three on it on every article on a certain subject that I read, meaning that
oh, by the way, just to clarify that last bit, man, you were saying there's no gay gene. I would not say from what I've read that there would be a gay gene. What it would be is like a combination of circumstances that lead to like a hormonal
that's where I was
shift in the
going.
womb. I think.
That's where I was going. It's
Okay.
exactly where I was going. So again, from what I've read, there's no gay gene.
Right.
There is scientific proof of a hormonal imbalance. Now, what I read on the hormonal imbalance, that's just exactly what it means. That you have an imbalance of hormones that may that how can I say this the right way so I can get the right point across? That make you you can be like when you have that imbalance, you can be a bit more flamboyant,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't mean that you're a homosexual attracted to this same sex.
Right,
So
but
so
if there's a hormonal imbalance in utero, like while the kid's still in the womb, that affects brain development at certain stages. So like that's how you actually get boys is that there's an influx of male hormones like in the womb, and that forms the male what is it, zygote, embryo, whatever the hell it is at that
yeah.
stage, and that's what causes the divergence that leads to a boy.
Well, what I was gonna say was that back to that hormonal imbalance, there is like for example, I have because I have family members and friends that are gay and whatnot,
Mhm.
and I also have I can think of two specific family members that they are not gay. Um, One of them has 7 kids, right? So, but these two people that I'm thinking of, they're very. You look at them and they're very flamboyant. They're very out there and they're very like if you didn't know them firsthand, you would question like, "Hey man, is that dude gay or whatever?" But it doesn't mean that that they are. So that's what I'm saying. Going back to the hormonal imbalance, I believe because again, there's scientific proof of it
Mhm.
that there can be a hormonal imbalance, but it doesn't mean that it makes you uh, gay or that you were born that way. Now, I do believe that if you have that hormonal imbalance, what I strongly believe is that any person, if they are put in a certain environment for an extended period of time, I do strongly believe you can become like your environment because that's like all you know, and we can take it out of like the gay talk,
Hmm.
and like for example, that's why there's a lot of people that say you are the product of the environment that you grow up in, and this goes back to like people growing up in poverty and stuff like that, and the way that poverty affects people.
Hmm.
Now they were affected. Now, given you can be you could be born into a broke family, because your family is broke, you know, but just because you're broke into you're born into a broke family, it doesn't mean that you're gonna have a broken childhood. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're born into an environment where all you see is crime every day, all you see is gunshots every day, all you see is murder every day, and you were born broke with no financial means, then that increases your chances of turning out to be that way. So I feel that on the flip side of the back to the conversation that we were having, I feel that it's kind of the same way. Like I think you're not born gay, but if you're put into that kind of environment long enough, you you become or you and it's not even that. It's not
I feel
even
like you're taking the long way around to just be like the gay agenda's coming for our kids.
Is this your way of telling us that you're gay, Freddy? Is this what it is? Secretly harboring gay feelings?
anyway. So
uh,
um
Look, I do think that there is something to the acculturation. I think that's the right word of certain sexual norms. Like my understanding is right now. All right, there are numbers out there that seem to suggest that certain people who have transitioned, like gone through sex reassignment surgery and gotten the hormone treatments and all that stuff, a lot of them transition back to their original sex uh, because that wasn't really like basically they took the one step too far, and most of them turn out to just be gay. Like it's the ones that transition back. I mean, it's not like you go like, oh, I wanted to transition over here and then I wanted to transition back, and it's just that was the only thing. Like there's usually another aspect to that, but I'm saying there's probably that on the farther end of the spectrum where it's like some people are maybe having some sort of like emotional hang up or issue that they're dealing with, and they go, well, maybe it's my sexuality, and maybe they like, well, like those people are gay and that seems to be working for them, so let me try that for a while. That probably happens. But uh, yeah, man, there is something to the idea of like if you're telling a kid like, look, there's all these options, but like I feel like when it comes to sexuality, if you just leave the kid alone, they'll figure it out. Like they're gonna, if you're not giving them a bunch of weird porn and like kind of like giving them like, hey, like there was an incident where this kid was having a gut infection, so he got an excuse to use the staff bathroom at the school he was going to, and one of the teachers noticed that he was using that bathroom specifically and somehow got the idea that this kid was like transsexual and started showing him like these documentaries and pamphlets and like it's okay if you want to be a girl, and this it basically started fucking with this kid's head. He goes home and tells his parents and they sued the fucking school. Like it was
oh,
this,
that's pretty fucked up.
but like the idea that you would even try to influence a kid on that level, like don't get me wrong, if they come to you and they're asking you questions, that's different. But the idea of kind of introducing this idea of like, well, maybe you should, start playing around in this area, and it's like, no, just leave them the fuck alone. They'll go. They're again, unless they're introduced to some weird material as
Now,
far as pornography, and I think there is something to that where like
yeah, exactly. And going along with what you're saying, now see that I also believe. I believe that a kid, doesn't matter how young they are or whatever,
Mhm.
like you're saying, they can figure out. They can figure out like I'm this, I'm that, or I'm the other, or they can figure out like I'm gay, or I like boys, or I like women if you're a girl or whatever.
yeah,
But I go back to the same thing. I think that whenever that kid or whenever that person, that human being
hmm
figures out, okay, I like men or whatever, um, I go back to my original argument. You have then from that point like made a decision like to be gay. You know what I'm saying? Like
is
it's
this the old one dick argument? You can fish your whole life and become a fisherman, but you suck one dick and you're a cocksucker for life. Is that the principled position you're coming working from
no,
here?
no, man. My principal position on it, and like I said, I don't frown upon gay people if that's what makes you happy.
He just
It
wants you to
makes you
wear the
happy or
armband.
whatever. But I'm just saying, I just because I've had a couple of people really try really hard to push on me the fact that you're born gay, and of course this is coming from a gay person, and
Mhm.
they kept telling me, they were like, it's because like I'm gay and I was born this way. And I was like, okay, dude, like first of all, I need you to understand that I don't care and I don't mind if you're gay. I mean, I'm not gonna look at you any different. You're still a human being and you're still a person at the end of the day. Which at the end of the day, that's the only thing that should matter. Is because I think when we've had this conversation, that's the thing that I believe that we forgot, and that's why I feel the world is the way it is. It's all fucked up because I think we forgot the core value of like no matter how you are and what you are, at the end of the day, you're still a human being. But
Right.
with somewhere along the lines, we forgot that everybody's a human being, and that's where I feel that everything got misconstrued. But
I'm losing your plot thread here. Where are you trying to get to with that?
again, back to the same point. My point is that um, it, this is gonna sound totally fucked up, but I don't know what other way to say it.
Go for it.
I really truly believe that like being gay is a picked up behavior. It's like you choose to be gay.
Again, I think
I
in a lot of cases that might be the like I said. If there's a lot of people that like culturally we don't really know how to have certain conversations. So if somebody's going through something like emotionally or like they're trying to work through some social psychological issue and they're like, well, fuck it, maybe I'm gay. You know what I mean? That's a possibility. The whole the stereotype of like chicks going to college and just playing around with lesbianism. Like, yeah, that's probably a case. And there also seems to be certain evidence to suggest a elasticity or plasticity, whatever the word would be, for female sexuality, in that they can basically, like, if they're innocent, a certain portion of the female population is psychologically disposed to the idea of like if they're in a situation they can just adjust to it. Like that's where like the studies on fetishism, like in males, that seems to be more of a encoded thing. Like there's a certain point in male sexual psychological development. I think it's around like 5 to 7 or something like that, when like we're kind of, again, if you leave a kid alone, they'll know what they're sexually attracted to, right? But like you can interrupt that process, and that's where fetishization comes into place. You know what I mean?
got you. Yeah, I see.
If a kid gets a stiffy while he's staring at some shoes, like all of a sudden he's a foot fetishist. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Yeah,
And it's not that simple, but I'm saying that process is different in women. Like fetishization seems to come along later in their sexual development.
now another thing, because I remember when I was talking to this person about it. This is another thing that I threw at him. Another thing that I, going back also to what you're saying,
Mhm.
is I do believe that that process can be altered, because I told this person I also believe that, like, for example, when you're a young kid, like a very young kid, 4 or 5 years old, if you were ever molested, and depending on like who molested you, like if it was a guy, like if you're a boy
Right.
and it was a man that molested you, I believe that that truthfully does increase your chances of you being like a homosexual. But because I, again, the like how I defend that is because, like you were saying, you may be in the process of like not knowing exactly like what you're attracted to. So if the first thing that you experience is that,
Hmm.
then you're more likely to lean towards that because that's all you know.
Right. It's
You
likely
know
that the kid will imprint to that as a sexual cue,
exactly.
and that's
So,
also a possibility, man.
so I go back to my original point. That again, even if that's the case, that's still psychologically learned behavior.
Look, man, all the scenarios you're throwing up right now are not only likely, but like there is, you can go out and read cases like this, people going like, yes, this was my experience. But what I'm having trouble understanding why you're having trouble understanding why there are certain cases where people, if you left them alone from childhood to adult, if they had the perfect little, everything worked out right, and like they were allowed to blossom in their own special way, there would be little boys attracted to little boys and little girls attracted to little girls, and there would be those people in between who just want to freak with everybody. I'm saying, like, we could, yeah. You can't see that on camera. Our behind the scenes man is just head bobbing back there in agreement.
Get it on with everybody.
Why can't we be friends?
Why can't we be friends?
Oh man.
Um,
By the way, at a certain point here, I'd like to get your opinion on some. I've been watching a shitload of these Antifa videos from like Portland, and like I think there is something to be said for the idea, like the protest culture of today does not know how to chant. Like they have like they do those shitty hell no, we will go blah, blah, blah. And it's like, get some rhythm in there. Get somebody that can actually get some wordplay. Like, be creative, goddammit.
Yeah.
You're stagnating.
Sounds like they need black people.
You might be on to something there, man. But okay, where were we here? Yes, I'm just saying. Is that what you're saying? Is you're not willing to cede that ground that there are people who are out the womb predisposed to homosexual attraction?
yes, because of the fact that we go back to your original point
Mhm.
of uh, there's really no scientific proof other than your hormonal imbalance argument.
Yeah.
Like there's really no. Yeah. Again, there's people a lot smarter than me that may not know
Hey.
shit that I may not know of,
Right.
that they do. But I mean, as far as because I've done extensive research, because I'm the type of person where if I find something difficult to understand, especially like if a worldwide spectrum has a strong opinion on it, I do try to research as much as I can. But even when you research on the internet, there's only so much that you're gonna find, and also you're either gonna find a very black area or a very white area, and you might find some grayish. But there's never gonna be a solid answer of like this is what it is.
I'll be honest, Freddy. Right now, all I'm hearing is that you saw a dick one time, had some strange feelings, and you wanted to make sure that was not something that was in your genes.
That does
You were like, I need scientific backing that I am not
That's-
gay. Yeah, okay, I get you, man.
that's
No,
that's
I'm
a
not-
good play on words.
nah,
man.
it's cool. There's nothing but love here, Freddy. It's all good. You're in friendly territory. All right, man. Hey, look, we may be reading the science wrong, and the people we're listening to might be from different angles. I get all that, man. But here's the thing: as I do believe that, you know what I mean. This is why I'm saying, like, what that not being willing to fully accept the idea that certain people are predisposed to certain sexual tendencies is not that drastic. Like it's not like you don't like accept that certain people just want to be gay. Like your premise basically is that like certain people just choose to be gay, or maybe they saw some stuff and were influenced. Okay, that you might get a little bit of pushback, but even there, like I said, there are certain people who have written out their own testimony of experience, and that was what their story was. It's like, yeah, some shit happened, and I was like, yeah, that's my thing now. Anyway, where I'm going with this is that's not something that's going to tear down society if like people like if somebody disagrees with you on that, as I very benignly do. I mean, it's like I think that certain people are, you think that certain people aren't, but that's not going to cause any sort of social rift. But not being able to at least accept that, which I think in certain circles you would get a massive pushback on, is why I believe we also have to extend that further and go, okay, certain people are going to be racist as long as they're not being violent, as long as they're not being, hell, they can try all they want to try to make the culture into whatever they want, as long as they're not being illegal and violent with their activities. Let them be. Try to talk them out of them as much as possible. You know what I mean? Like this conversation right here would be along the same format that you would try to have. It's like, look, everything I've read says that the idea of race doesn't really exist. There is more biological diversity in Africa than in any other place on the planet within Homo sapiens. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you start getting along those conversational lines and going like, look, there are certain populations in India and in Eastern Europe that are more closely related than India and China. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, yeah, like that logically you can talk people in, we can at least come to a middle ground where it's like, I'm not going to go that far, but okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's all we really need, man. As long as we can agree that we all need oxygen, food, and regardless of what flavor you want, sex sometimes. And some people don't even seem to need that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get some Nikola Tesla. Well, no, he was into pigeons, but that was different.
Well, Mike Tyson was into pigeons.
Not sexually, I hope.
Oh,
but,
okay. All right.
What I'm saying is, man.
Scratch that. Sorry, Mike.
Where I was going was there's certain people that are. I do believe there's certain people that are asexual. I want to say.
Isn't it pansexual?
No. Pansexual means you're into everybody.
Oh, okay.
Asexual means non-sexual at all. There are certain people that just don't engage in sexual activity.
Gotcha.
And then you get certain people that are only into masturbation. So that's okay. Anyway.
So
next conversation.
Yeah, Iron Man wasn't gay or racist. Why did they kill him?
Dude, you can only he's been doing it for
10 years.
11 years.
11 years.
Yeah, man. First Iron Man, 2008. Yeah, and besides, it worked for the story, man. Tony dies, being heroic and shit. I don't quite understand the Fat Thor, but that's the choice that.
There was also an article released that he was actually got more rights than all the other characters. So
Hold
he was
on,
making more money.
Can you state your name so people know at least who the fuck is talking?
My name is Joaquin G. I'm Freddy G's illegitimate child. He doesn't like to claim me just on tax season.
So,
yeah, I can see that, man. Like they.
What, that I don't like to claim him?
Huh? Oh yeah. Well, hey, it all goes back to money, man. Yeah, the studio was having to pay out Robert Downey Jr. a shitload of money, and also I'm sure at some point the guy's gonna get tired of playing the role. I mean, seriously, he's probably been in more of those movies than any other character. Like, I'm trying to think. Like,
But see, and I get that, I get it. But when you come to movies, entertainment, it's about the money, man. So my argument is, and for the record, I have not seen the movie, so I haven't seen it. But I read on like what happened, so on and so forth. But in the entertainment business, it all comes down to money. So why would you want to get rid of like a major cash cow? Now I get it, like what Joaquin was saying. They were coughing up a lot of money to this one actor and one character, whatever which way you want to see it. But all those movies, if they didn't break a billion,
mhm.
they got very close to it. So the money was there. So I don't think that it was because they didn't want to continue paying them. Like, and even then, even like now that he's dead,
I'm a little bit confused as to why you're acting like they didn't also get rid of a shitload of other characters, like Scarlett Johansson.
I get it, I get it, but
Like, I get the impression they're going to
no,
bring Hemsworth back for the next Guardians movie, but even there, like,
but not, my point is that none of them. Wait, before I say that,
what's his name? Chris Evans also. Like, they pretty much sidelined Captain America.
but I was gonna say like, but none of them, and you may disagree with me on this, but none of them were as big as Iron Man, and Captain America was not as big as Iron Man.
I'll disagree with you, man. When it comes to the story lines they've built up in the MCU, yeah, man, the pillars were Iron Man and Captain America. Like that, those were the underpinnings of like the
Joaquin, do
Avengers.
you honestly think that Captain America was bigger than Iron Man?
Why does he think I said bigger? Joaquin, explain this to him.
It's not bigger, but he was bigger, like in size wise.
Anyway,
I could pull up that article.
no, but that's what I'm saying. Like Iron Man, he was still bringing in like a lot of money, and I just didn't like the fact. I mean, I get it. Like I get like they got rid of him, so on and so forth. But I don't
Do you
like.
think that they fucked up his death somehow? I mean, like that's that. Because here's the thing, man. Like I get what you're saying. Like, why didn't they just keep making Iron Man movies? But like story wise, like, did it either it made sense to kill him or it didn't make sense to kill him?
No, fuck the story. I don't give a fuck about the story because of the fact that a story is just a story, and Hollywood will always be able to manipulate it and fix it and turn it around whichever which way they want. But when you literally kill off a character because you're not going to use them anymore, I would understand. The argument would be way more valid if you had a character and you killed him off because he was costing you money, like a lot of money, and you weren't seeing the returns. That wasn't the case with Iron Man. You know what I'm saying? So if it was a character that just wasn't bringing in the money, um I don't understand why you would kill him off. Now, the other point I want to make was, like, say there was 3 Iron Man movies. Say that you no longer want to make Iron Man movies like the solo ones.
Right.
That's fine. But I feel that at least they should have kept the Iron Man character to put him in every other movie where the superhero characters were gonna come out, like in another Avengers movie or whatever, and you can just stop doing solo Iron Man movies if that was the problem, that they didn't want to, like you were saying, that they didn't know where to go with the character or whatever.
Well, hey, first of all, we're dealing with comic book movies, man. Where, like, I mean, in the comic books, Iron Man has died several times. Like, they've had to bring his ass back on several occasions already.
No.
So,
But
like,
if you remember, in the other movies,
mhm.
he died, but he didn't really die. Like, we knew that he didn't die.
Well-
Name one movie where they killed him, and it was convincing to the audience that he died.
Iron Man?
Which one?
No, I'm
Oh yeah,
asking
Iron Man.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever killed Iron Man on screen.
They've
So
never
what were
killed
you?
him in the comics either.
So
What?
what are you
Yeah,
saying?
they've never killed Iron Man in the comics.
Dude, he was dead a while back. Some chick took over the Iron Man mantle after he died.
Yeah. Well, let me
What
look up
was
more
it?
things on
Riri
it.
Williams, I think, was the name of the character. That's
Maybe
like,
this might be like an old article or something. But
Okay, so hold on. Um, fuck, I lost my train of thought.
look, man, how do you know? I would guess that Robert Downey Jr. probably like the contract that he had with Marvel was for boom, boom, boom. This many movies. Like so, like this was something that was probably set in
So
place
why
years back.
that's still not a valid argument, because if that was a valid argument, then why wouldn't they do what they've done with plenty of other movies, like fucking Batman and shit, to where if Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want to continue
Mhm.
making the movies because of whatever money or whatever the case may be, then you just put another character. Now, I will say this. I personally hate it. Like, I don't like characters to be replaced because I feel that it just throws off the movie, throws off the character. But that's just me.
Hey man, I'm still pissed off that nobody managed to do a really decent Superman movie with Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
And like they're gonna replace him as Superman in whatever the next DC Superman movie is, Justice League or whatever it is.
I thought they sucked the Spider-Man movies.
Spider-Man?
Yeah, I thought.
Which ones? The last one? Because there's been 3 in the last 20 years, man. There was the Tobey
Yeah.
Maguire one. There was the something Garfield, and then there.
The one to me, the one that was okay, and I was like, I get it. It's Spider Man. It's kind of okay. Was the first one with Tobey Maguire.
Okay.
The ones after that,
Well,
that's
see, this is where we got a little bit of a difference on taste, man. Because I actually thought the last one, and granted, it's a little bit of a departure in some ways from the typical Peter Parker character, but I thought the last one with Tom Holland, the Homecoming, was that hit the right tone for me as far as a Spider-Man movie, and I thought they did a good job with it. I never really got into the what Henry Garfield or whatever his name was movies, but I agree the ones that Sam Raimi did with Tobey Maguire were decent up until the third one, where my understanding was the studio stepped in and kind of forced Raimi to cram everything into one movie, which is why that one was kind of a mess. But what? Okay, I'm trying to remember how we got onto this line of conversation. How do we get to Spider-Man?
with the replacement of characters.
Okay, right. Okay. Well, they rebooted it. They didn't. It's not like they just whole hog replaced the character. Which actually, if I understand what they're trying to do, DC is going to have to, like, they've already did Justice League with Henry Cavill as Superman, and like Aquaman was there, and now they're going to have to replace Ben Affleck as Batman.
Yeah.
But they've still got Wonder Woman, and I think the dude that did the Flash is still technically on board for the next movies. But they may cancel them all. They just reboot the whole bitch. Hey, that's possible.
Quick question.
But here's the thing, man. Look, what they're trying to do with the Marvel continuity is build a continuous and universe, right? So, like, if Robert Downey Jr. is not signed up to do another Iron Man movie, the best bet is to kill him off. Like, if you bring him back, like what you could always do is be like, hey, we cloned his ass, so like he's young Tony Stark now. You know what I mean?
Good luck trying to pull that off.
Hey, man. Here's the thing: what they ended up doing with Joaquin, did we find out if Tony Stark actually died in the comic books?
yeah, he dies a lot of times.
Okay, so
you want me to name off all of them?
no, that's fine. We just needed the precedent.
It's because Freddy never bought me comics.
Yeah. He's
who's your favorite Batman?
I think that
I know you're not gonna agree with mine, but fuck it.
okay. I think the one that did the most justice to like Batman, like in character as Batman, was Val Kilmer. I don't think he got enough credit for like the cold, like deadpan nature that he. Now, granted, he was also the first Batman that had to worry about nipples on his suit. That movie was not well made, but I think Val Kilmer did an excellent job with being Batman. I thought he sucked at being Bruce Wayne. I thought George Clooney did an excellent job of being Bruce Wayne, sucked at being Batman.
Okay, and I can see that argument.
If you want to talk about my favorite, it's going to be Michael Keaton, though. But I don't think he was necessarily the best at being Batman or Bruce Wayne. I like Michael Keaton as the character that Tim Burton put on screen.
I can see that too. I can see Michael Keaton definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But my favorite Batman, and on both sides, as in Bruce Wayne and Batman the character,
Mm-hmm.
was George Clooney, and I'm yet to find someone else that agrees with me on that. Nobody agrees. They everybody's argument rebuttal on that is that he was too soft.
I thought I'll give you some credit on this account, and I guess the movie credit. I thought the campy nature that they ended up going with, was it? Not Brockheimer. Who the fuck produced those movies?
Well, I don't remember that.
Anyway, the point being, I thought because they kind of almost went back to that 1960s TV series level of like campy, over the top ridiculousness. So in that vein, I think George Clooney did the best with what he had available. You know what I mean? Like everybody just kind of seemed like they were just like, fuck it, we're doing this on that movie. Like even, what's his name? Chris, whatever his name was that played Robin in that, those couple of movies. Yeah. And then you had Alicia Silverstone, coming in as Barbara Gordon in that movie.
And everybody forgets Jim Carrey.
No, he was in the one with Val Kilmer. It was him and Tommy Lee.
No, he was with.
No, the one with George Clooney was what's her name? Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Wait, and who was Batman on that one?
That was George Clooney. That was Batman Forever.
Yeah, and didn't the Riddler come out?
No, the Riddler was in fuck. Oh wait.
No, it was
Okay, it was the first two ones with Michael Keaton were Batman.
Jamie, you're falling off, Jamie.
You better still be working the cameras, boy.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I meant you're falling off on the information.
I know, I'm looking it up right now. It's just that your Wi-Fi is kind of slow.
Blame it on technology.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Why you gotta be cheap, dude?
Where I was going with this was,
I honestly think Batman Forever was the Riddler came out on that one and Jim Carrey played. Cause Two-Face came out on that one too.
yeah, but that was the one with Val Kilmer. George Clooney was
Batman Forever was
okay. Batman and Robin.
Forever was the one with
Val Kilmer.
with Val Kilmer, Tommy Lee Jones,
Batman and Robin.
Jim Carrey,
Yeah.
Nicole Kidman, and Chris O'Donnell as
so
the Robin.
Chris O'Donnell.
Did Jim Carrey come out in
Batman and Robin?
No,
no,
right?
No, he didn't.
What the fuck? Why do I keep thinking? And I have the fucking movie. Why do I keep thinking that it was George Clooney in Batman Forever? And I can like vividly see his face, like George Clooney's face. But I was shit.
Hey man, I understand you don't want to go back and actually watch the movie because they were pretty bad, but
I liked it. I like Batman Forever, kind of. Aside from the kind of like very fucked up CGI,
yeah,
I think it was alright.
they were at least trying some stuff. You know what I mean? If anything can be said about those '90s comic book movies, they were at least trying some stuff.
And they still made a very decent amount money.
Yeah, yeah. I think I really do think though that the most honest attempt to do a to the comic book feel, like as far as the tone, was the Christopher Nolan one. Like I know he was going for like the gritty realism, but like in the process of that, he managed to catch like the tone of the Dark Knight line of comics that was out for a while. I think it may have been Frank Miller that started that one, but like the more in the shadows, like fucking just like you know crime noir that certain Batman comics had. Like I think Christopher Nolan managed to capture that with those Dark Knight movies. Granted, the third one was rushed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like yeah. I mean, hell, man, still got some great performances. Like Tom Hardy as Bane was like a great villain. You know what
yeah.
I mean? A bit of a weird little like they just like when they killed him, it was just like he's dead now.
Yeah, like on those movies, is like well when I would watch them as a kid, like as a kid you get entertained by just seeing superheroes on a fucking screen and knowing that that's something that you one day hope to be and shit like that.
Mhm.
But now that I've seen those movies like as a grown man, like now it's the first thought that I get. I was like, this is a shitty made movie. Like they could have done, but and then
By
you
the way, just to throw this out there before we totally skip over the Batman conversation, I will give credit to Ben Affleck. I thought he did a decent enough job in the Batman versus Superman uh, movie, as far as playing like that the gritty old Dark Knight Returns character. That was the source material they were pulling from there. He managed to capture that essence. As far as Justice League goes, he looked like the fucking Michelin Man, and they should be ashamed for ever putting that out.
oh shit, that's
Sorry, you were
funny.
saying?
No, just that man. That like as a kid, like I enjoy them, but not now that I've been able to watch those movies and actually think and understand more of like how they're made and the millions of dollars that they like invest in them. Like I think back and it's like they invested so much money for like this shitty end product. But
Yeah,
then I also think that back then the technology wasn't what it is today. So I kind of like I can't shit on them that much. I guess is what I'm saying. But then because every time I think about movies from back then and now, I like go down into like a rabbit hole. But then I also think now I understand that this is not having to do with superheroes or anything like that. But I think of like the classic movies that were made from like back in the 80s and early 90s that were like the technology was the same, but they made a great fucking movie. Like for example, the Back to the Future movies.
right.
I think that those movies like they were great for the time that it was. And the one that to this day still gets me is how accurate Back to the Future 2 was. Like as far as the events that happened.
When they went back and like,
Yeah, yeah. Like
okay,
like like for example, the first black president. Well, I mean, at that point it was the
oh,
first
okay,
black mayor. Then the Cubs winning the World Series. You know what I'm saying? Like, how the fuck did they do that shit?
you trying to say Zemeckis is a wizard? Okay, sure, why not?
Shit, man.
Uh,
I don't know, but they got that shit on point. Um,
yeah. Then they had hoverboards, so
yeah.
let's not go overboard here with the you know
Now,
swing and a miss.
I was about to say, I was about to bring up that point on hoverboards. Um, Now they haven't put out hoverboards like those yet, but I was gonna tell you, you do know that we have the technology for it, right?
They have ones that have the like the fans in them, the little
No,
propulsions, and then they
one.
have the magnetized ones. But the thing with the magnetized ones is it has to be on a specific surface.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Again, I'm not gonna speak too much on it because I haven't done enough research.
Mhm.
But as far as I can remember, and this was like last year in 2018 or 2017, they had already figured out how to make the magnetized ones work off of almost any surface but water, I think.
I'm calling bullshit on that.
Okay.
Joaquin,
Let's look this
your
up.
services, sir.
What was this? Hoverboard, sorry.
Hoverboards.
Yes. All-terrain hoverboard.
Yeah. Magnetic or whatever. But yeah, man, back to that movie. So many events that actually
There were like 3, man. They managed to hit like 3 points, and it was barely. They were glancing blows.
really.
There was
Yes.
a concept developed by Lexus, and they released a video.
But it was an
no,
all-surface.
No, it was small surface, like about 3 inches off the ground, but it never went anywhere. I guess there was like hiccups with production, but Lexus was looking into it.
It's like I saw a video where they set up like a skate park with a bunch. They had coated the surface in that whatever the material was that repelled the magnets, and they had some skater come in and do some shit.
Yeah, that was Tony Hawk. That was
Oh,
that was not Lexus though. That was, let me go back to that. But yeah, Tony Hawk messed around with one of them. I mean, because his name is pretty big in skateboarding, so if they would have gotten him involved.
Yeah.
It was called Hendo Hover. That was the one that he got involved with.
Okay. But that required a special surface for the board to
Yeah.
hover.
It was almost like water-ish. That's what it's showing here. It had to be kind of like polished off or sleek, or maybe had to have water on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, now was it a hoverboard or was it was just a frictionless, I forget what the word for that is, but like it was just a low friction.
It was a low friction board. That one wasn't really a hoverboard.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But the hoverboard that Freddy was talking about was being mentioned by Lexus. Lexus was working on it, and it kind of worked with all-terrain. At least that's what they were hoping for.
Mhm.
And they took photos of it for
Yeah,
all-terrain.
like
But it was magnetized?
Yeah, it was magnetized.
From what
Levitating magnet hoverboard revealed by Lexus, and this was back in 2015.
Yeah.
And it hasn't come up again, so I'm guessing it might have fallen through.
Yeah, I think they might have scrapped it. But yeah, I remember reading on that, and basically it worked everywhere but on water. So yeah, and I'm just saying, like we have the technology to come up with a whole bunch of other shit. I don't understand how they haven't figured out a way to make a board come off the ground.
Hey man, I'm still waiting for somebody to get those
But-
concept spherical tires to work, man.
But then I was about to say, and this is a nice segue. Joaquin over there believes that the moon landing was fake. I believe what Joaquin believes as well. What do you think? Did we go to the moon?
I am open to the possibility that everything that was shown to us was done as said. I am also open to the possibility that nothing of the sort happened and that they just circled the Earth, and that the only reason the Russians didn't call us out is because they were planning to do the exact same thing and we just beat them to it. I do know of certain circumstances, or let me put it this way. I understand from my reading that there were certain cases where NASA was most definitely called out putting fake promo shots out. And not NASA directly, but whoever was doing the promotional work for them took photos and doctored them.
And to me, they got me on just two pieces, man.
Mhm.
The fact that there's that one video where they have the American flag on the moon
Mhm.
and it's waving. Because first of all, I've never been to space, but I have read that there's no fucking oxygen. So without oxygen, there's no air. That's one thing. And then on the other one is an image, a camera image of the flag on the moon.
Mhm.
And if you look at that fucking picture, I can prove it here with my shadow. See, you see my hand. You see on my hand. You see my fingers is pointed the same
You're
way.
trying to say that there was an extra light source in the shot.
Not
It,
only
it was casting a shadow from two different angles.
no. What I'm saying is that when you saw the shadow of that flag,
Hmm.
it wasn't reversed. It was I don't know how to fucking explain it. Like, you know when you're looking at a shadow directly in front of you, like on the floor,
Right.
it's kind of like the opposite, right? See what I'm saying? See what I mean?
Okay. Oh, I think I see what you're saying.
What do you think that I'm saying?
Like it looked like they painted the shadow in afterwards.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like this is I don't know what it's called, physics or whatever. Like it's regular shit. Like when you look at a shadow,
Look,
and
look,
it's in
Freddy, as a longtime arguer of conspiracy theories, just 101 conspiracy theory, don't ever try to make the argument that you can't explain.
that.
Like
Well, I mean
like
that.
you pick the simplest one and go with that one, man. And like I see what you're saying. Like that there are questions around certain elements of those photos.
Yeah,
Certain
and
parts
base.
of it can be explained, certain parts of it can't be. I've heard some explanations for why the flag was waving, like the material they used had like some metallic support in it, so like the vibration of them having driven the flag in could have kept it still moving while they were taking the shots. As far as the shadows, one of the explanations I don't hear often enough explained is that all of their equipment was like that bright reflective white. So,
Yeah.
like, if they're standing next to an object, they're also casting a secondary reflective light source. So, like, any other object in the shot is also, even though there's not air to like get that diffused light, you're also getting a direct reflection from other objects in the shot. So that affects the shadows as well. Um, Look, man, it's all possible. They may have gone. Another possibility that doesn't get brought up enough is they may have just gone up and circled the moon, which you know,
So how'd they bring back the moon rock?
well, to be honest, there were at least a few examples of some of those moon rocks turning out to be fake as fuck. They gave one to, I believe it was the King of Denmark, that
Yeah,
turned out to be fossilized, what do you call it, petrified wood.
yeah.
So, yeah, man, there's all kinds of examples on that. I'll be honest, we're getting in the weeds right here. Joaquin, where are we at on time, brother?
We're at an hour and 9 minutes.
Right on.
No, and I'm saying because like this past season, the Steph Curry,
Hmm?
he also tweeted that out. Like he tweeted that that the moon landing was fake.
Well, hey, man, look, this
And
goes back to like the whole flat Earth thing. It's like, look, until we have, what do you call it, regular space travel as a species, there are a lot of things, there are a lot of questions that are going to be reasonably asked. Like, does space flight even exist? Like, I know the rocket goes up, but what happens after that, who the fuck knows? You know what I mean?
It's also kind of fishy that NASA controls all the footage and photographs that we get from
Right, but they
space.
even accuse SpaceX of faking their reentry
Yeah.
footage.
But how does that make sense though? Isn't like what's his name, Elon Musk, believe that everything that we see, feel, or whatever is like not real? So how would he
wait,
be
what?
behind SpaceX? Yeah, he's
What?
like a part of that simulation theory people.
No, he believes it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, he believes it's possible, but I don't think he.
But here's the thing, man. If you found out that your entire life was a video game, like for sure, no doubt, if you found that out and you didn't go fucking insane, uh, wouldn't you try to get the highest score?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. If you knew that everything was possible and nothing at all was real. But yeah.
You want to go for those high stats, man. When somebody sees the leaderboard, you want your name to be up at the top.
Well,
He's
well,
living
what?
life like that though.
Where
I mean,
where
it
I
makes
was
sense.
Fuck yeah, he is.
where I was going with it was that Steph like tweeted that out, and the chief of NASA retweeted him
Oh
and
yeah,
told him,
I saw that whole
look,
thing. He
yeah,
taunted him back. and-
yeah, it was like, yeah, well, I mean, if you don't believe it, like,
Oh,
we'll take you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
That was almost like a threat. It's like, we'll take you.
We
in the-
won't bring you back, but
Oops, the airlock blew.
yeah, man. I don't know. Just back to what Joaquin over there was saying, like, and it can go a lot of ways. I mean, I still truly believe that there's a lot of things, like a lot of things that the government knows that we don't know and we will never know. Like for example, something that I do. I mean, I don't think about it often, but I think about it when people bring it up. It's like, do I believe in aliens? And the honest truth is, man, yeah, I do. I think that there is some kind of other life out there. Like, I truthfully don't believe that the human race is special enough for us to be the only ones roaming this universe.
Well, Freddy, I respect your opinion, but I would think that's ridiculous. And what we really need to be looking at is interdimensional beings. And
So you don't believe in aliens?
stargates, space portals. No, man. Look, man. I think aliens are possible. I think it's very possible that there's life on other planets within our solar system that we just haven't found yet. There's
Oh,
possibility.
I think we found them. They just not telling us.
That is also a possibility.
You know where they're kept?
Utah? I don't know, man. Fucking. You think Mormons are real, dog? Nah, man. That shit was invented by the government back in the 50s.
Oh,
I challenge you to go back and find an account of Mormons before 1951.
Mormons.
All of these opinions are for the entertainment of the audience. None of this should be taken seriously in any form or fashion, and any opinions that might offend you were intended to, of course, be a joke.
What do you
Word.
guys think of the exoplanets? Have you guys heard of that? The
What's that?
The exoplanets.
Motherfucker, you about to bring Nibiru into this?
No. It's like it's astronauts. Like I think a couple years back discovered that there was little planets orbiting around these stars that we see up in the sky.
Well, finish
like-
the fucking story.
That was it. I
You-
don't know.
Oh, you want to know what our opinion is on like planets around other stars?
Yeah, like they haven't developed equipment small enough to explore these planets, but
Oh, so they're small.
they're
Like smaller than us?
Like smaller than us.
No,
What?
that's not.
How does? Okay, you got me on this one. I haven't even heard of this. Like, what do
Yeah.
you?
Yeah,
you mean there are planets around other stars? Because we know there are planets like similar to the planets in our solar system
They're
that are
called
around.
exoplanets. They're
Whoa.
astronauts. Let me bring it up right here. It's on,
I think
it's
you
on
might.
earthsky.org. If you guys look it up.
Okay, because like I know they're supposed to be like, if I'm understanding the word properly, I think exoplanets was supposed to refer to planets that weren't orbiting a star. I may have that wrong.
No, if you want, I could look up the.
Okay, I'll tell you what. I got to hit the restroom, guys. So like, look up the stars. Freddy, lay down some more crazy conspiracy stuff. Tell them about the reptilians, and I'll be right back.
Where,
Yeah,
where
you're
the
dumb if you think the reptilians are real.
where the fuck is Eddie Bravo when you need him?
We might have words, Joaquin.
I had never, to be honest with you, man. I had never heard of that.
Yeah, it was. I think it was like in 2015, 2016 that that the researchers found that out, and I think they're trying to develop equipment small enough to look at these planets like microscopes or telescopes. But yeah, they're calling them exoplanets. Let me look up the definition of exoplanets.
Cool. I did not know that.
Do you think aliens exist on those little microplanets?
There's two things I'm not gonna say I'm sure of, because nothing's for sure until you see evidence. But there's two things that I'm like I lean on strongly. I believe.
Hold on, before you get carried away and I lose this moment. Exoplanets are planets that orbit a star outside of the solar system.
Okay. See, so it would be outside of our solar system.
Yeah, like, but it's, I guess, within the Milky Way range. Milky Way range.
Within?
Uh, maybe outside of that range. I'm not too sure what our solar system would.
Okay.
How
So
far I mean,
no,
I've
no,
never
no,
been out there.
So again, I might be too stupid to explain this, but like first, as much as I know, our solar system is within our galaxy, and our galaxy is the Milky Way, right?
Our solar system is like this.
Within our galaxy.
No, our
No?
solar system is bigger than our galaxy. Our galaxy is the Milky Way, which
Oh,
is a
okay.
part of our galaxy. But the big, all like, you know how when they would show you as a kid that little diagram with like the
But
circles
okay,
around
so
the
then
around the sun.
my question becomes, so then if it's that way, there is something outside of our solar system, technically, right?
Yeah, they're speculating it's these exoplanets.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Like, okay, our galaxy is the Milky Way. The Milky Way is in our solar system, right?
yeah.
Technically, there has been scientific proof that there is other solar
Oh,
things,
basically other solar systems. Yeah,
systems outside of ours, right?
yeah.
Okay, so
That's what they're saying.
okay, so that's what I was getting at. Like these things are what they call, and I don't know much about it, but what they call the black holes. Black holes is like, as far as what I understand, there's supposed to be other, like other shit, like basically other solar systems or whatever.
Well, they haven't confirmed or denied that. What they have stated is that they're getting closer to figuring out what black holes really are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's Neil deGrasse Tyson. I got that from.
Yeah, I saw his podcast.
And what he says that he thinks that it is, from one episode that I saw, he thinks that it's a fucking, that it's not necessarily like a real place. He thinks that the black holes are a time warp. On one of the episodes, I may be wrong
Yeah,
because
that,
I'm
that
not.
was that was the one I saw, but he stated in that one that it's his opinion that he hasn't proven
Yeah.
it yet or he
So
hasn't found
so
evidence.
so basically, because I think Rogan was the one that asked him. So Rogan asked him if you think it's a time warp, like what like he was asking him what exactly does that mean, and he says that the time warp is basically a place where there's no time. And then Rogan was like, so how would anything coexist without time? And then that's when he said that he didn't know. He hadn't figured that part out.
There's even an article in Forbes magazine in 2018 that states that there's tons of planets out there. Some of them even have no suns, no stars.
Yeah, but that goes back to, that's in our solar system. I'm talking about what's outside of our solar system.
Okay, so what did you end up coming across for that, for exoplanets?
Exoplanet is a planet that orbits outside of our solar system.
Okay, so it's free of our solar system, or it just orbits beyond?
It's anything that orbits its own solar system outside of our solar system.
Say that again.
I'm gonna explain it like a fifth grader. I'm sorry. It's anything that circles another sun outside of our
Okay.
solar system.
Okay, so it's just a planet in another solar system would be an exoplanet.
Yeah, like a neighboring solar system.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. They've been doing the research on that by observing what do you call it, blockages in the light between us and other stars. So if something comes between us and the star on a regular basis, they can assume that it's orbiting and get a measurement from that. Yeah. Fascinating research, man. I mean, I guess at some point we might be able to send something out that far. I think it's Voyager 1 is making its way outside of the solar system right now. Like it just entered the Oort cloud or something like that.
Freddy, you're looking real lost, dude.
I'm telling you, when it comes to like when you go deep into these, but it's more like when I hear people like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like because he goes into detail and then starts explaining, and the more he explains, the more confused I get. It's just fucking, and that just comes to show how smarter other people are than you, but smarter to the point where they literally make you feel retarded.
Look, man, I've held for a long time that like, and this kind of goes back to like, introducing kids to various forms of media. Um, I think there is an argument to be made that, all right, take the classic definition of pornography, which is basically something that has no redeemable artistic or social value, right? So a lot of what we consider entertainment is, I think, could qualify as that. Like, all right, you take some geeky little kid that can name you, all the lore of Pokemon and stats and fucking, or some kid that collects, well, no, I don't even think kids collect baseball cards anymore, but fucking whatever it is, man. If you took all of that and took that ability to acquire and uh, what do you call it? Staticize. That's not a right word. That's not even a word, man. But like systematically retain that information in a useful fashion. That ability applied to something like, studying history or craftsmanship, or even if you're just keeping up with what's going on with the world as far as space and all of this, man. Like there is enough going on in the world that I don't think most people have an excuse for being bored with their existence.
Definitely, and I think that that's why you have the birth of so many theories and so many I believe this and this is why I'm right and you're wrong and this is why my theory works this way. Like, yeah. And it's all because of what you said. It's all because people at some point did not want to conform to whatever was out at that time in that era.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, fuck that. I don't have to listen to that. I'll just make my own shit up. I strongly believe that that's how 90% of theories and shit came to be. Because one person said, I'm not following that. I don't agree with that. I'm going to create my own.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Even when there's no scientific proof of it.
Hey, man. Look, there are probably people right now who still believe in the idea of humors, are like that there are various aspects of like the human immune system that are all tied to like ether and fucking chakras and shit like this, and there are people putting crystals on their forehead to cure colds, and I mean, look, there is. And here's the thing, man. I actually think some folk medicine and like some of the alternative types of stuff that goes on is useful in some sense. Like even if it's just like a placebo type of aspect, which we know is a very powerful thing because we've done the research on it and it seems to show that, I mean, you say we like, but like, I mean, there are people who have done research which seems to show that like there are things that you can do psychologically that for some reason or another have way more effect on people than just treating them with medication and shit like that, right? So I'm saying like there is a place where the mind meets reality that is not necessarily clear cut.
Yeah.
We can to a certain aspect manipulate our existence in this world, man. It's that I'm not necessarily going as far to say like I believe in like telepathy and telekinesis and like no, I have never seen any evidence for what's the word for that mental powers outside of the human body, but within the human body. Like, you know what I mean? I have seen people do like some crazy ass, like, say, athletic things, like just because they thought they could and they fucking did it. And you're like, holy shit. Uh, but sorry, where were we going with this, man?
No, it's just
I just want to point out that I took some edible things that grow on the ground, and I could assure you that I saw people's powers.
what does that mean exactly? What did you see as far as the powers?
Like funny looking cartoons coming out of people's hands and appendages.
Wait,
Like
wait,
I could
wait,
see the
hold
color.
on, hold on. Repeat that again.
Like funny looking cartoon things coming out of people, and I could see people change colors. Like if they were angry, it was like red. If they were chill, it was like blue or green. If they were like aroused, it was like pink or yellow.
Have you ever run across the idea that like basically certain instances of purported mind reading might actually be tied to people being able to interpret subvocalization, like when people kind of mutter to themselves under their breath, you know, because some people when they're thinking or something like that, they're kind of speaking to
I
themselves.
do that.
Yeah, like being able to interpret that, like might be like if you could do that, you know, like say if you could, you know, like tell what someone was kind of muttering to themselves, like being able to present them with that information might like you know, play itself off as being able to read their mind. And
Not
then
that, not necessarily. I don't think, but
I think
with,
I think there is a way though that you could pick up people's characteristics and maybe subliminally,
that's
Mhm.
different though.
you know, you
Picking
feel
up characteristics.
and like reading body language and
Yeah,
stuff
that
like that.
but
You
but
know?
Yeah.
that's different because that's something more visual that you can actually see as opposed to being able to see something that somebody's thinking. What I was gonna say though was that I do believe. Oh no, I was going back to what you were saying. How people mumble stuff and they talk
Mhm.
to themselves. I was thinking when you do that, because back way back when, because I've been doing it for a long time. Like I mean, like mumbling and telling myself shit.
Mhm.
Like I used to think that I was the only one that would do it. So my question is, up until what point in that should you be worried of like, am I doing this because I'm crazy or is it because I'm really like I guess because in a sense I'll be honest with you, sometimes I catch myself and I'm like talking to myself,
Mhm.
but I don't know if it's because of like what you're saying. I don't know if it's because like I'm thinking out loud or
My understanding of where that kind of boundary line is basically if you cease to be both sides of the conversation, because like I know what you're talking about, or at least I hell I don't know if I know exactly what you're talking about, but like the way I'm interpreting what you're saying is similar to what I kind of do when I'm talking to myself, is which like I basically play both sides of the conversation at the same time.
you do that.
Yeah. I think that's like I think that's part of what it is. Kind of like what the human brain does is it's able to set up
So
kind of simulative scenarios.
that's what I'm asking. Like what at that point what part of that is borderline crazy?
Well, again, my understanding from like what like say like paranoid schizophrenics who like can like sometimes they'll hear people talking to them, or like they'll, you know, anyway, that point at which it seems like you're receiving outside information.
Okay, good. I
Like,
don't. Yeah, I know what you mean. No,
yeah, again,
I'm not. I'm not there. I'm
uh,
definitely not there.
yeah. Like again, if you're
But
playing both sides, if you are aware of being both sides of that conversation, then
then
that's
you're
not.
fine.
Yeah, that's just. I think that's.
Because I do catch myself like a lot to where like I'm and it all starts with a thought,
Mhm.
and then that thought I verb like when I'm driving. I do
Right.
that shit when I'm driving all the time. Like that thought, I verbalize it. Then once I verbalize it once, sometimes if I feel that it's interesting to myself,
Mm-hmm.
like I'll take off from there. Like I'll start thinking shit like what I was thinking about this morning. Like I was driving and I was like, man, like my little girl's birthday is coming up. She's about to be 2, and we're planning this party. And I'm literally, this is what I'm saying out loud. I was like, we're planning this party, and then I started thinking, and then she's gonna be 2, and then I wonder what she's gonna be like when she's 5. If she's like giving me this attitude already right now, like how am I gonna deal with that attitude once she's able to talk? And I literally went on a whole tangent like with myself, you know what I mean? Like, and I got all the way to the point to where she was like 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, at 10 years old, she's already going to have this tendency. If I don't stop it now, that she's more likely to have this tendency of like her being that way and staying that way and manifesting her attitude in different ways, whether it be physically, she's going to start yelling or throwing things at me, at her mom, because we don't agree with her on some point. And then I went back to like, this is why I need to figure out a way, like how to stop.
But
And
you're saying all this out loud, like either sub vocalizing
just
or
the way I'm saying it now.
you're talking out loud to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Look, man. There's actually research that seems to show that the ability to do that is beneficial because you're basically running through the simulation of having to vocalize. You know, it runs along the same lines of like the idea that you should probably keep a journal or something like that, where you're forced to sit down and actually put those thoughts into a solid form, so that you're allowed to like interpret. You can go back and look at the written word or listen to yourself out loud as you're vocalizing these thoughts and get that self-aware perspective where it's like, oh, this is what I'm actually thinking. You know what I mean? It's a form of self-examination.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Or at least, again, that's my understanding.
yeah. And because I do remember, I mean, growing up, I used to hear it all the time. When it was like I would hear like grown people say this all the time. They would say, uh, don't ever talk to yourself because only crazy people talk to themselves." And like I was always like brought up that way. It's like if you talk to yourself, you're crazy. Like I was. I mean, as I grew up, and I was able to form my own ideas and through
Mm-hmm.
my own experiences, I figured out that that was bullshit.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like I was instilled with like don't talk to yourself because only crazy people talk to themselves. And basically, if you talk to yourself, like you're not all there. That's literally like the way I was I was brought up or whatever. Well,
Right.
early on, and I don't know why this is coming up, but early on in my so-called comedy career, I used to run a lame ass joke about that. And basically, the premise of the joke and the punchline was that that's the reason as into why I never had any imaginary friends. So I used to play with my brothers. Imaginary friends.
Right. Right. I
Yeah.
get you.
So,
Yeah, I actually, speaking of imaginary friends, man, I think that's actually part of the whole process of like being able to build those mental constructs.
okay, that's where I draw the line.
What do you mean?
Like I never. Two things. I never constructed or built
Mm-hmm.
an imaginary friend, and I think that that's where it would make me feel a little weird. Where if I ever get to the point where I actually feel that I'm talking to an imaginary person and I feel that I'm doing that and that they're there,
Right.
that would make me feel like, okay, maybe I do need help.
Well, I
I'm
think.
just being honest.
Well, I understand it in like little kids. Again, I think it's probably part of that process of like being able to construct like the idea that like now you can basically play both sides of a conversation, being both, like voicing two simultaneous thoughts, to kind of play them against each other is part of how we sort through the ideas that we're constantly having, right?
Yeah.
But like a little kid um, probably needs to figure out how to like internalize that. You know what I mean? Like what they're doing is projecting outward some idea. You know what I mean? Like your imagination is capable of building the idea of a thing outside of you, but like to give that thing life and voice in the way of like, okay, if you were able to run through again the process of holding two sides of a conversation to work out an idea in your head, which a lot of the times I think we do instantaneously, like when you go, okay, this but also that, and okay, I'm gonna do this, you know what I mean? Like you're running through a scenario in a simulative fashion so that you are able to kind of examine a situation with a lot of variables in it, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Which is why you have to be able to kind of hold that conversation with yourself. Because, like, I think about like people who, when you talk to them, it's almost like they're not talking to you. They're almost talking to some simulation of what they think you are.
Well, then, I mean, if you really feel that way or think that way, then it would be logical to say that schizophrenic people are not really schizophrenic then.
I think it's probably a little bit of a extreme scenario where like their ability to project that simulative function has been wired improperly somehow. Like it goes beyond that where like their brain is just kind of randomly throwing out.
I'm saying because I dealt firsthand with a schizo person,
Mhm.
but like she was off, like she was almost like off the rails, and I would always remember that she would tell me, she was like, I remember when I first met her, I met her through a mutual acquaintance, and we were left alone once, and we were talking like outside, at a social gathering, but I was with her. And the first thing she told me that creeped me the fuck out. Now, given I was back then, I was like a little tipsy and shit like that
Mhm.
because I was in my drinking days. But I remember her telling me she was like, I like you and I think that you're really cool, but Timmy doesn't really like you. Timmy is not comfortable with you. And then I was like, who the fuck is Timmy? And I kept looking around, and she was like, oh, Timmy is with me all the time. And then in the middle of, because I wasn't that drunk, I was tipsy. So in the middle of my like tipsy sense, I still understood. I was like, oh,
Mhm.
this chick is just a little off. You know what I mean?
Right.
But what the thing with her was that her reassurance, like her reassurance and her firm stance that Timmy was there. You know what I'm saying? Like Timmy was somebody that was there with her, and she was like, "Yeah, he doesn't really like you. He feels uncomfortable, but I'm telling him to like chill out. That you're okay, and he's pretty upset right now. But I mean, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I told her, I went along with it. I was like, I can leave if you want. It's not a problem. You can let him know that I can leave. And I was like, she's really fucking off. But see, that's different because this person
Hmm.
literally thinks that there's somebody else there without them being there. So that's clearly a
Right.
disconnection. What we're talking about, and even what you were saying earlier, is still not.
Well, look,
Still seems normal, is what I'm saying.
I think my line of thinking on this is very similar to the argument that I've made before on some of these conversations that there are certain, say, psychological issues and what's the word I'm looking for here? All right, like sociopathy, psychopathy, certain say autism on certain aspects, are all basically edge cases of things that like we normally they're all functions that our brain normally has. Like we all kind of have the ability to, you know, imagine a thing outside of ourselves, right? Like most people, you know what I mean? There is certain evidence that like under a certain like IQ function, that's not really possible. Like there are some people walking out there who are literally too dumb to imagine stuff. So yeah, but I think again, when it comes to like certain aspects like that, like schizophrenia, is probably somehow they're not able to make the connection between the brain being able to run those simulative functions and being aware of that. Like their brain is running the functions, but
Yeah.
they're not aware of it.
Fun fact. Did you know that Jamie Foxx is schizo?
I would not be completely surprised.
Yeah, but he's like severely schizo. Like he and I'm saying this because he's verbalized it himself. Um, like, well, first of all, he's very heavily medicated. Like
Okay,
he's like on 9 or 10 different like medications or whatever.
I've never
But
heard this
but
before.
but what he said, and the only reason he was talking about this at that time, I think, was because he's also an advocate for marijuana. So he says that the best thing that has helped them like cope with it and live with it is has
Hmm.
been marijuana, other than like the other medications that he takes. Anyway, the
See, now
reason.
that goes to show you there is a wide range of variation on the human creature because, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, man. There are various recorded cases of marijuana being the thing that actually triggers a schizophrenic.
That's never happened,
No, no.
man.
There are cases of people who were probably predisposed to
I say no. I know, I understand what you're saying, but I
like.
say
It's not like marijuana did that to them. It's just marijuana happened to be the thing that
yeah, that
triggered.
triggered. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, and I get it, but like I honestly think that with those people, there had to be something else in their system, and maybe
Like maybe it was just the combination along
yeah,
with the pot. That's
exactly.
possible, man.
Um, yeah, like that because I really, and again, I'm not a marijuana user, so take it from me. It's not like I'm trying to advocate for it, but I have used it in the past, and I've used it extensively. Um, and just like it doesn't do that. It doesn't it like it does hyper your senses.
Yeah,
Like you do when you get really high, you do get to a different place.
yeah, man. But
But
look,
it
I
doesn't.
I can honestly say that I have been so stoned that I have questioned reality before.
Yeah,
Like
me
I've gotten
too.
to that point where it was like I questioned
Yeah,
what I was seeing and
and
what was happening around me.
I can't say this person because this person watches the podcast, and I'm not gonna put him on blast. But I know a particular person that got so high one time, and they were trying to convince me that the trees were green, and I was like, I get it, the trees are green, and he was like, no, bro, but look, the trees are really green, yo. And I was like, yup, they are.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Uh,
So, so yeah, man. I mean, yeah,
yeah.
and
It- Look, I could buy that. I had never heard the account of any. I had never heard any account of Jamie Foxx being schizophrenic, but you know
I
what I
think
mean.
there was a. I just looked up something on it, and it said it didn't diagnose him with anything. I looked up various sources, but it did say that he did have it like a traumatizing experience that left him with flashbacks. So it might be PTSD.
oh, Well, I'm trying to remember what
And like he had
interview.
severe paranoia from that.
Yeah,
So
I'm trying to remember what interview, because it was like he did that interview with somebody big, like the New York Times, or like it
Mhm.
was a big publisher or whatever.
And also, you got to remember that you bringing up the paranoia and the PTSD, man. Like, there's a lot of these things. Like, we tend to forget that these diagnoses, I guess. Like, all right, for example, like the whole like sociopathy, psychopathy. Like, those aren't like technically medical terms, but we kind of use them in the language to like you generally know what I'm saying when I say, oh, he was a sociopath. It's like it's not like he was running around trying to, you know, serial kill people. It was like, okay, the guy just didn't seem to have the proper emotional response that you would expect from a normal human being. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Whereas psychopathy would be something else. And then, like, I think anyway, what I'm saying is like it's also very easy for somebody, even like these set medical terms, it's very easy for somebody to be misdiagnosed because a lot of these things overlap. You know what I mean?
yeah. And my final point on Jamie Foxx, the only other reason as to why I was bringing that up is because he also stated in that interview that like having the schizo or whatever is was a double-edged sword, because he feels that because he had that schizo, that it made him for a better actor. He's like, it's very easy for me to switch and turn on and off
Mm-hmm.
different emotions and different characters. Like I can be dramatic, and it helps me. Then if I need to switch to being comedic, I can do that. And I realize that other people need to get training for that, and I don't. But then he's also said that when it's happened a couple of times in his career, where for whatever reason, like he forgot his medication, or he brought the wrong medication, and like he'll be off it for a couple of days, and like it fucks with him. Like he can't continue. Like he says that he's had like a breakdown.
Where was it
Like,
you were listening to this?
uh, I want honestly, I want to say it was a podcast.
Is this one of the ones that he does or
Oh, I
no?
didn't even know he did a pod. He does a podcast.
I want to say it's either a podcast or a radio show that he was doing for a long while.
Oh, I don't. No, no. But something tells me that it was an interview that he did like for like a magazine, like a Vibe magazine, a New York Times. It
Uh,
was it was a big it was a big. I know that it was a big publisher, and this was a while back. This was a couple years ago. This was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. But and I remember, because that's what hit me, and it stuck with me. It hit me the fact. It hit me the fact that he said like that he was schizo, but that it helped him with his acting career, and that he always knew, because of like what he had
mhm.
ever since he was a kid. He said that it like since he was 6, 7, 8 years old, that he always knew that he was different, that he was not he and his words were that he was not normal. He's like, I knew I wasn't like a normal human being, and he's like, I knew that I wasn't gonna be able to like to live like a normal life, and that supposedly made him adjust. And then he said that when he discovered acting again very early in his life, like
Mhm.
when he was 6, 7 years old, through a talent show, he was like, I knew that was like my calling or whatever.
Yeah, man. Well, there's an argument to be made that like the very idea of human creativity is basically the brain kind of having these weird little, like, what if we did this? You know what I mean? It's just throwing out patterns of like yeah, man. Some people will never get over the idea of playing pretend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
yeah, like he did that movie, The Soloist, where he pretended to be that guy that was schizophrenic. Remember that? Maybe that left like a, or maybe he picked that up as a project because it correlated with what he has,
Yeah, I mean it could be.
or maybe he could have.
I'm not taking anything away from the dude. Like he's a great actor. Like the way that he has, the way that he's able to like channel his emotions into the character. Another one that is very good at like defining characters. No, I'm sorry, defining is not the right word. Embodying the character
Mhm.
is Cuba Gooding Jr. He's
Yeah.
very he did a great fuck. Did y'all ever see that fucking movie? He just did it like a year ago, 2 years ago. It wasn't a movie. It was a docu series.
The what's it called? The O.J. Simpson.
OJ. Yeah.
Yo, John Travolta and that shit, bro.
Well, I mean, Gooding Jr. Man, like, fuck, like for him,
I don't know.
if you pay attention, like to the acting,
Mhm.
you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the acting of Al Pacino in the oh my god, the Phil Spector documentary where he played Phil Spector.
The Jinx one.
Yeah, same fucking thing, dude. Like there were scenes in that documentary where Al Pacino gave me chills because of the way that he acted out like the murder scene and all of that. Like it trips you. Like but it's like it's very few characters like Al Pacino, Robert De Niro's another one.
Well, John Good. What's his name? Gary Oldman. If you look at his character repertoire, like he's never been the same person in a movie twice.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's
It's
I
crazy.
mean, I think that in itself causes like
but
mental.
you think it causes that?
Yeah, I think
I,
so.
I was just about to say that I thought that maybe that was just like great talent.
I
to
kn-
be
I
able
mean,
to-
I think great talent. There's a fine line between being talented and great and just being obsessive and like crazy. You know?
Well, I think even he kind of recognized that there was something there because he actually, if I recall the story correctly, he went back and started getting accent lessons so that he could pick up his native accent again because he'd basically lost it over
Yeah.
the years of doing
Yeah. The other one that reminds me a lot too. Didn't they have? And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't they have a psychiatrist and a psychologist on site when they were filming The Dark Knight? And they said that the actor that used that psychiatrist the most throughout all the filming was Christian Bale, because he said that after every fucking shooting day, like he felt emotionally drained, but not only did he feel emotionally drained, but he felt like it was too much. Like he would end up in a very dark place.
I'd never come across that, but I have come across some accounts of I think even some interviews with Christian Bale where he talks about having kind of emotional issues that he's been working through for years. So, yeah, there's definitely something to be said about the art of acting or the craft of acting or the practice of acting, however you want to say it. The ritual of acting
The
is
craft. I like the craft. The craft sounds more respectful and decent.
you're tapping into something there that is not necessarily healthy.
Yeah.
Not to say that it can't be healthy, but you know what I mean. There is something there about like you watch that show Barry.
No.
It's all right. I just find Bill Hader to be hilarious, so like that's kind of the hook for me. But it goes into the idea of actors basically tapping in. It's like, oh, you had something that was real, like traumatic in your life. Okay, tap into that and pretend it's something else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that deflective nature of again, the human mind can kind of shape reality around it, which is one of the reasons you have to be good at communication, so that every once in a while you can go, "Hey, man, is this really the way it is?" You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
got to check back in with the rest of humanity every once in a while, so we can get a consensus on what trying to remember. I had a conversation with. Anyway, the idea basically being that reality is the thing that we can both agree is real. You know what I
Yep.
mean? We got to be both able to bang on it before we can share a reality.
And on that note, on you bringing it back to reality, I think that's a good point to wrap it up on.
We coming up on that 2 hour mark.
Yeah,
We got 3 minutes till. So if you want to take
So-
care of sponsors or anything like that, or
You're optimistic, Joaquin.
we are.
Don't you ever use that-
Remember, people, that this episode of the Bouncing Brains has been brought to you by Radio Shack. For all your electronic needs, make sure you.
There's that one motherfucking franchise owner out there somewhere that's gonna sue the shit out of us someday.
They're all
Desist.
gone. No, do the closing.
Throw out your. You want to throw out the social medias?
If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can find me across the board on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Freddy G.
Yeah, I know we were talking before the podcast on how the social media traffic has slowed down a little bit for the both of us. Which, by the way, people, if you go back and listen to these conversations, you will know that we have thrown out the email and Facebook and all that other stuff. So if y'all really do want to engage with us in the conversation, we're going to be doing these solo podcasts a lot more. So, we need some shit to talk about, and hopefully at some point, fingers crossed, and don't hold us to the fire on this one, but we should be doing some live streaming at certain points. So these shows will be, live. You can engage with us in real time. And as always, you can just message us on Facebook, Twitter, email. We got all that stuff, yo. Bouncing Brains podcast on Facebook, Bouncing Brains on Twitter and Instagram, and bouncingbrainspodcast@gmail.com. If you want to email us, you can find me at hatfieldstandup@gmail.com, as well as on Facebook and Twitter. Reach out to us, yo. Get in touch. And right now, again, we are going to be on RGV Titan Radio. These episodes should be seeing their audio premiere on RGV Titan Radio. You can go to, rgvtitanradio.com.
Yep.
And their player is right there in the browser. So, you can throw that on at work and listen at any time. By all means, look them up. They've got some great shows going on right now. And the roster will be including us. So, these shows should still be coming out on Wednesdays and Fridays, right?
Mondays and Thursdays. Oh,
Mondays
wait. No.
You're
Wednesdays
confusing
and
the
Fridays.
recording
Shit.
schedule. Yes.
Wednesdays and Thursdays.
So we will be.
Wednesdays and Fridays. Shit. My bad.
We're making some changes. We're shaking things up. Again, you can catch the multi-angle camera video version of this podcast on YouTube. You can find us there under Bouncing Brains. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. At some point, we will have a system in place where y'all can maybe throw us a couple extra bucks because, we're trying to get by and stuff, and gas ain't cheap. We'll probably be talking about that at some point. And much love to Joaquin behind the mic, Freddy's illegitimate child from another. We won't talk about that.
hey, pay Freddy because he's got backed up child support.
Yeah. That ain't going to you, but it's, all the other little unrecognized youngins out there.
We all walk the same.
Word.
Little to the left.
All right.
All right.
Y'all have a good night. And until next time, y'all have a good night.
Later, y'all.